Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. My name's Mike and this is Build and Tinker. Today we are continuing the build of the 1966 Batmobile from Fanhome DeAgostini. We're in issues 13 and 14 today and we continue to build the engine. So let's get building. So we'll start as always by opening the packet and seeing what's inside, and we have a number of sets of screws and some pulleys. So I think we're looking at the front of the engine today. Let's have a look at the instructions. So here we have the front of the cylinder block. We have a dipstick, if we can get that out. And a number of pulleys. Now these are all different but they look similar, so we need to make sure we know which is which before we start trying to assemble them. Get all of these out. We have the crankcase oil pipe, and we also have the water pump, and there's another piece here which is 13D, the oil filler cap. So we'll pop this to one side. So identifying these pieces is kind of important. They actually have some markings on them. It's hard to see where the differences are. 13H and 13I look remarkably similar, so let's see if there's any markings on them. They look pretty identical to me. The others have got different designs, so that's a bit easier. We have 13G, it has no holes and a wide ring. 13F has one single hole in the middle, and then 13J has this sort of tall post in the centre. H and I look very similar. So the first step is to fit to the the block front. We're going to put the dipstick and we're going to push it through this hole. So there's a little angled end to the dipstick, which is, I think, there we are. Just going to stick in the hole like that. I'll take some of this stuff out of the way so you can see. So it looks like that. Then we take the crankcase filler and the silver oil filler cap and just bring those together. Just pop the cap on the top there. Again, it's just a push fit. And then if we take the block front and turn it over, bring this underneath the dipstick, and it fits onto this little pin there. And again, it's just a push fit, so no screws or anything like that. So very easy so far. We now have to mount this assembly to the engine block that we finished in the last video. So we'll get our screws out first. We need 3 AM screws. And what we're going to do is we're going to drop the screw. Right, what we're going to do is just present this up to the front of the engine block, and there's 3 studs here and 3 recesses here, so they line up. There we go, just like that. I'm taking care not to knock all the bits off the engine. Let's get the first screw there in place. That didn't work. There we go. That'll hold itself in place now, and I should probably be able to just screw them in this direction so they don't have to hold it. Difficult to show on camera, so I'm going to have to hold it, but there we go. But yeah, you can put them in with it just sitting on the desk. So there's 3 of those to go in. Like so. And then we take the water pump, and again that fits onto the front of the engine. You can see there's a cutout which is the shape of the pump. You see that there? So the pump basically just fits straight over the top of that, and you'll see it lines up then with the 3 holes. So that is screwed in place. In fact, that's not screwed in place yet. It asks us to just place it there, which is kind of interesting because there's nothing to hold it in. Yeah, it's just going to drop off. I don't understand why they think that will stay. If your house is installed with gravity, this is not going to work. So let's see what the next step is and see if we can't put it all together. Okay, so we need to get a bracket that we were provided in issue 5. We'll have to go and get that. Okay, so in issue 5 we received this bracket, and this is now going to be installed as part of putting this water pump on. So because of gravity we need to hold this upright whilst also holding the bracket in place, whilst also installing a screw. So the screw we need is a UP. So we need one of those. It's quite a long one. Let's get that onto the screwdriver. Then take the bracket, which has a piece that sticks out, that needs to face downwards towards the engine. And this bracket has this bracket has a pin. I'm not quite sure how they expect you to do this. Okay, let's try that again. What we're going to do, okay, I may have figured this out, maybe. So we're going to take the long UP screw and we're going to start it off in the hole in the bracket. Then take the water pump and just gently lay it in place, and then we put the screw through this hole in the corner, because that will then help us hold the water pump in place. We're going to start doing it up, but not all the way. It's very hard to show you what I'm doing, but by getting it half started, it's now holding everything together. We can now bring the bracket round to its final resting position. I need to loosen it a tiny bit first, because there's a little pin on the bracket that has to go into another hole. There we go. Right, if you can see that. Can you see that? Right. We've got the bracket in place. There's a little pin on this piece here. That's screwed in loosely. With that in, with the bracket in the correct location, I'm just going to tighten that up a tiny bit more, and that holds it all together for us. And then the alternator here has a tab on it with a screw hole, and that's going to go into the other hole in the other end of the bracket. Just there. Yeah, if you can see that. So that's all lined up. That's how it's going to go. They use a different size screw for that. We use an AM. So we used a UP before. We need an AM. For the other part of the bracket, then we go in through the front of the alternator, coming off the screwdriver, into the end of the bracket, like so. Try and get that focused so you can see. Okay. It's really hard to show you the detail on camera. I'm sorry about that. And this is exactly what I was saying about the plug leads and why it's just not worth putting them on now. If you are manhandling the engine this much to fit pieces to it, they just get knocked off. Okay, so with our water pump in place, we can tighten all the screws up, but it does look like there will be more screws to go on there later, but they're not being fitted in this issue. The next piece of assembly we need to take care of is all of these pulleys. So, or pulley, yeah. So we start with 11J, which has the long central stud that sticks out, and then we put on I and H next, with the widest part first. I keep dropping it, and we're just creating like a multi-ribbed pulley. Then G, which has got the widest of the outer rings, and then F, and that's the only one that goes on facing the opposite way, so the ridge on it goes inwards, whereas on the others the ridge is all faced outwards. That all goes together. Now it doesn't snap together. There's a screw that holds it on. It's an RP. So we get our screw. Again, you need a lot of hands. Okay, so starting from the back end, the J end, sorry, so starting from the 13F, sorry, the last piece that we just fitted goes on here first, and it goes onto this lower pulley, and that will just rest there while we take the screw and attach that. Sorry, one of my lights just went out. Okay, and then just check that that spins, which it does. And that was the last step for this issue number 13. So we've now got the front, the water pump almost fitted, the bracket for the alternator, and this set of pulleys. So let's take a look at issue 14. So issue 14 includes some some more screws, and we have some components for the cooling fan. So again, we need to identify the components first. So we have a piece here which is 14E and 14D. They're both fan assemblies, but one has a complete center and one has a partial center. We have some individual fan blade, well, an individual fan blade, sorry, a metal bracket, some belts, another bracket, some more pulley pieces, a power steering pump reservoir, and then these pieces which are the power steering pump, and of course some screws. So we start by assembling the power steering pump. We take this bracket 14H and this bracket 14G, and we bring them together. Let's check the orientation. Okay, so there's a pin on here on the 14H that goes into a hole, and that's like a locator pin, and from there we can then ensure our screw is in the right place. The screw in question is an AM. Going to use up one of the ones remaining in the bag from the last issue. That screws in here from the front. Okay, let's get some of these other pieces out of the way a second, just so you can see what we're doing. And then there's this silver piece here, which is the back of the steering pump, and then another which is the front of the steering pump. They have, one has a post, screw post, and the other one has a hole, and they are keyed, so you can only put them together in one way. And then we put a screw in the back of that. It will be a BP. Try and get that out of the bag. That just screws in the back. Like so. And then they come together with the bracket we just assembled. Comes in from the back of the bracket. Again, there's a little locator pin on the top of the silver piece that locates into here to ensure that it's facing the right way. So it should be oriented like that. And then there's a disc 14K which goes over the top of the front here to essentially create a pulley, and another RP screw holds that in place. Just don't have enough hands. Okay, and I'll just back that screw out a tiny bit. There we are, so that we still have some spin on that pulley. Then 14L, which is the reservoir, power steering reservoir, which you get another silver piece, literally just snaps onto the top of this pump. It's just a push fit. So that goes on like that. And now we have to bolt this whole assembly to the engine block with 2 UP screws. So get those ready. I'm going to take one out of this packet, and the one remaining one that was spare from the previous issue. And now, so we take the engine, and this bolts onto basically the 2 vacant screw holes from the water pump, which is why we didn't put them in before. And we thread that through. If everything's lined up, it should tighten up. Try again. There we go, I can feel it tightening up now. There we go. And then the final screw for the water pump. Okay, so next we get to fit some of the drive belts. We've got 3 here, and I believe they're all identical. Yes, they are. So the first one is fitted between the power steering pump that we've just attached. So we pop it around there, and it goes onto this large pulley set. And it goes onto the innermost pulley, which is well, it's showing on the book. It's the third one in, which is actually, yeah, okay, yeah, it's the third one. It's not the innermost. It's the third one in, which is really the first one you get to use. Now we need to put the compressor pulleys on. So there are three pieces to this assembly. We have 14C, which is basically just a disc with a hole and 2 slots in. That goes over this stud here. And we rotate it so that the slots well, they've got them facing up and down. Though I'm not sure it really makes a difference because there's nothing for them to locate onto. We then take 14B. There are 2 pins, it's really impossible to show on camera, but there's 2 pins that stick out there. They need to go into those cutouts on the first one. And then we take this piece here, which looks like a little cage, and put that over the top of all of it. And make sure they all sit down tight onto each other. We have to put the engine down now and make sure that doesn't drop off the front while we put together the fan blades. In my mind it would have made sense to assemble the fan blades first, but we take the fan blade set here that has an incomplete center circle, and then we take this other set, then we take the single fan blade here and we bring it in to complete that circle, and then this set of blades goes over top of all of it. with the 4 studs facing outwards. So it's a bit fiddly, but you just sort of assemble it so it's equal. And that when you look at the front of the blades, there's a little detail. You can't see it on camera, but there's a little detail on each of them. So it's all facing the same way. And then we have to hold all of that together and then present it over the top of this pulley here. Take another RP screw. Try and get that on our screwdriver. And then it's attached to the front of the engine to hold the fan on. And there it is. Somehow I did that without dropping it all. So that's the fan on the front of the engine there. I'll just save these RP screws. Not sure when we need them again. And then we take the remaining 2 bands and fit them. Again, I don't really understand why we're doing this after fitting the fan. We now have to put them over the fan. And they go between... Oh, well, I kind of see why, because it would have been tricky to hold that together. Okay. They go over the fan onto the fan pulley, which has 2 ribs in it. So we'll start with the innermost one. And it goes over the alternator again, which also has 2 ribs in it. So it's going to go over the innermost one. But it also has to go around the large pulley using its next available rib. There we go. And then we do the same with the next one. Take it over the fan. Easier said than done. Over the fan pulley. Don't know how much of this you can really see. Over the alternator pulley, and then over the large pulley, and obviously try to not tangle it or twist it. It's twisted a little there. There we go. Not sure how much of that you can see, but there we are. There's a set of belts and pulleys. I mean, everything's black, so it's really hard to see on camera where they are. So that's the end of issues 13 and 14 for the 1966 Batmobile, and we've got quite a lot of engine completed now with the transmission attached. Obviously there's some hoses which we've taken off and we'll put back on nearer the end of the build, but it's looking really good. There's obviously a few more engine pieces to go with the airbox and radiator and bits and pieces, but it's really looking very close to completion, and hopefully soon we'll be able to start assembling the chassis and putting this in. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, then please click a like and subscribe. It's really important that people subscribe because most of my viewers aren't, so it really helps promote the channel. So thanks for watching. Have a great day. Take care.